Hello students, welcome back to my channel. Let us continue learning structured query language. In previous session, we had discussed everything about primary key. We had seen that how can we create a column level constraint primary key and table level primary key constraint. Similarly, we had seen that how we can enter the value, insert the value, and what happens if I try to enter a null value or if I entered repeatedly the same value. So we had discussed all this and we had practically executed them and we had seen it. In today's session, we will be discussing another type of a constraints, that is your foreign key or referential integrity constraints. So before we get on to the practical, first let us try to understand the basics of this foreign key. So basically, we know that in a relational data types, tables are connected relationally to each other. So when I'm talking about relation, so here comes the foreign key concept, right? So this constraint identifies any column referring to the primary key in another table. So what is the meaning of that? So I have a table over here. For example, if I'm talking about student, okay, so I have register number. Suppose this is my primary key here. So this is my primary key. I have another table for example, let me take it as a course. So course, so every course will have a unique course ID. So suppose this is course ID. So of course, we also should have a student's detail here, knowing that which are the students have enrolled. So since this is a course table, I cannot have all the details of the students. I can only have few details, for example, register number. Okay. So when I refer to this register number, if at all I want to know the details of the students, then using this register number, I will be referring that student table. Okay, so when I refer to the student table, I will get the entire detail of the students. Okay, hope you're understanding this. So since course table is dedicated to the course only, I'll have all the details of the course, but also I will have a column which will tell me that which are the students who have registered for this particular course. So if at all in case I want to know the name of the student, I want to know the mobile number of the students, I want to know the address of the students, then I will take that particular register number and I will refer to my student table. Okay. So in this case, register number becomes the primary key of my student table. And this register number is also present in my course table. Here, this will become a foreign key because this particular table is referring to the primary key of the student. So that is what I mean here when I say that constraint identifies any column referring the primary key in another table. So here I am having a referential integrity constraint. This particular table is referring to the primary key of the student table. Okay, so it establishes a relationship between the two columns in the same table or between the two different tables. So here, as you can see, it is creating a relationship here. For a column to be identified as a foreign key, it should be identified as a primary key in the table which it is referring. This is very, very important. Now, I can also have another table which probably I will have another column which has student name. For example, in the course table, I also have student name, but this is not a foreign key. Why? Because student name is not a primary key in my student table. So understand this concept. A particular attribute becomes a foreign key only when in the referring table, it is a primary key. Okay, so one or more columns can be defined as a foreign key. So as we have discussed in the previous session also, a primary key can be one or more columns. Okay, one or more columns together can form a primary key. For example, if I have two columns which is forming a primary key, if both those columns are present referred in another table, then that will become a foreign key. So both those columns will become a foreign key in that referring table. So first, the very main condition is whichever column you are referring in another table, if that column happens to be a primary key, then you will call it as a foreign key. Right? Okay. So the foreign key is created in the create table or alter table. These are the two ways with which we can create a foreign key in any table that we will see now practically. The foreign key in a table should match the primary key in the referenced table or for every row. This is called as a referential integrity. Okay, foreign key ensures referential integrity. That is, if in my main table I have certain values, that should be present in my referring table. Same value should be present, or I can have null value. Apart from this, you cannot have any extra value. For example, if I have register number 101, 102, only these are the two register number present here. In the referencing table, I can either have 101, 102, or I can have null. I cannot have a new value here. Okay, this is forbidden. The table in which a foreign key is defined is called as a foreign table or a child table or a referencing table. Okay, so in the previous example, the course table, whichever was referring, this is called as a foreign table or a child table or a referencing table. And the one which was referring, which was the student table, this is called as a primary table or a parent table or a referenced table. Okay, I hope you understand the difference between these. Now let us see some example here. So as you can see here, I have person's table. I have person, last name, first name, and age here. Okay. So let me take this as a primary key. Okay, because it is an ID and we assume that ID will be unique and it cannot be null for all the values. And I have orders table. Here I have order ID. Let me take this order ID as a primary key for this particular table because order ID will be unique. Okay. Now, as you can see, a person, whatever they order, there will be an order number. And of course, I need to know some relation between these two tables. That is, whatever the orders table is there, plus who has ordered. If I want to get the detail, I have the person ID. When I go to that particular person ID, I will get the details of that person. As you can see, the person ID 3, when I come and refer here, I know that 3 is a person ID whose name is Peterson. His first name is Kari and his age is 20. Okay, so this is how it is related. So in this case, I can keep this person ID as a foreign key. So this becomes a referential constraint over here. This becomes a referencing table. This will become my primary table or referenced table. If you see the values here, I have 3 and 3 repeated. Okay, so understand when it is a foreign key, there is no constraint on uniqueness. You can repeat the values. Also, I have 2 and 1. If you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, but I do not have any extra values which are not there over here. So that is another condition. First is there is no unique constraint over here. Okay, unique constraint is not applicable to this is for the foreign key. Second thing is no value apart from the reference table. No value apart from referenced table should be present over here, and null values are allowed. Null values are allowed. So these are the things you should be aware of. Okay, suppose I want to access the details. Let me once let us understand this. Suppose I want to access the details of this person too. So how will I write a query for this using an SQL? Okay, so I have a table here. I have a table here. I know these two tables. I know that person ID is this. So how am I going to access the value? Okay, in such cases, what I will do is I can use both the tables. That is, I can use a person table. So I will say select from person. Okay, so here what I will do is I will give aliasing for this p dot person comma o dot person select from. Okay, let me just make this clear. Suppose I want to access only the last name of that person. So I will say select p dot last name. That is because last name is existing in the person table and I will give an aliasing for this person table as p. So p dot last name from. Okay, all I know is the person ID. So which means also I want suppose order number. Okay, so I will take o dot order number. O is the aliasing for order table. So I am accessing what all things? I am accessing the last name of the person and also order number of the person with only the detail of a person ID. So from I need two tables. So I will say person P, comma, order O. So when I write this, the system will immediately understand that this is the aliasing I have given, which means wherever I see the word P, it is nothing but it refers to the table person. And also wherever I see the word O, it understands that it is nothing but table order, where I will put the condition. Let me say person ID is equals to P dot person ID is equals to O dot person ID. Let us see what happens over here. So whenever I mention like this, it is nothing but I'm going to compare whether this is available over here. Yes, this is there. So that time last name and the order number of this particular person will be displayed. Similarly, once again, this is checked and the order number and the person ID, last name of this particular person is displayed. This is checked and this is checked. So for whichever the person ID is matching with this particular person ID, I will get the details of the last name as well as the order number will be displayed. Okay, so this is how I will retrieve the different columns from each of the table using both the tables. You can use multiple tables for this. So as of now, we will see only about the two tables, right? Now let us execute all of them in practically and we'll see. So before that, see these are the syntaxes of creating. So first of all, if I want to add my foreign key in create table, then usually I will mention the regular attribute name and its data type. If you want not null constraint, you can add or you can leave it. That is left to you. Okay, so in this particular thing, I am keeping order ID as a primary key. Okay, this we have seen in the previous session, how to declare this. Next, keep a note of this. I will mention foreign key. Okay, then I'm saying person ID, which is nothing but which is the column referring to the other table. So foreign key is person ID and it is referencing the table. This is nothing but the table name. Referenced table and the name of the variable or attribute of that particular table. So you should be aware of what is the name of the table. Also, what is the name you have given in that particular table. It should match properly. Okay, so this is how we will create. So we will mention foreign key and the column which is referring the other table. Then you will use the keyword references. Then the table in which you are mentioning or accessing that particular column. Okay, so this is the table name persons and this is the person. Okay, suppose I have created already my table and I want to alter my table, add the foreign key later on. That time I can use the alter table. So alter table orders, order is a table name, add foreign key person ID. So person ID is the column name which I want to make it as a foreign key, which is referencing to the table person and person ID is the column which belongs to the person's table. Okay. Suppose I want to drop a foreign key. That time I will use the command alter table orders. This is the table name. Drop constraint fk person order. As you can see here, this is the name of the foreign key. This is important. You should know the name of the foreign key if you want to drop a constraint. For example, in this particular case, we have not given the name for a foreign key. So here you can add constraint and add the foreign key name. That is, let me add this only fk person order. Then you can continue the same line. That is foreign key, person ID, references, person ID. With this, you will be able to give a name to the foreign key. So if you know the name for that particular foreign key, it will be easy for us to drop it in case if we want to drop in the future. Okay, now let us quickly go to SQL and start executing these commands. So let us describe the person table which we have already created in the previous session. This table we already have, and these are the details we have in that particular table. Right? These are the details we already have. Now let us quickly create another table orders where we will add a foreign key which is referring to our person ID of the person table. Okay, so let us create table orders. So I'm going to have variables or attributes. First one is order ID. I'm not going to give not null constraints and everything because we have not yet studied it. Once we have learned that, we can use that. So I'm just simply going to give order ID as integer. Next, order number. Order number also I will keep it as int. Next, I have person ID. Remember, this person ID need not be same as the one which is there in your person table. You can give a different name as well, not an issue. Okay, but provided your variable data type should match, right? So these are the three attributes, that is order ID, order number, and person ID. Now let us create primary key and foreign key. So what is the condition? So primary key, I will just mention primary key and whichever column I want. So here I will keep order ID as a primary key. Okay. Next is our foreign key. So let me give name for this particular foreign key. So I will say constraint. I will give it as FK foreign, that is not a foreign key. So since it is person ID, I will say PER ID. This is going to be the name for my foreign key. Right. Then we will use the keyword foreign key, and inside the bracket we will take that particular column. So here person ID is the one which I'm going to make it as a foreign key. So write it as it is, person underscore capital ID, right? And then references. So we are referencing this particular table, that is person table. So references person, and make sure that you're writing same name of that attribute. So as you can see here, PERSON, I have forgotten to write N. So make sure that you're writing it as it is. So PERSOID. So when you are doing it, make sure whatever you have written, you are giving the same, right? So that table is created. Let us describe our table. Okay. So as you can see, order ID is not null. So though our person ID is a foreign key, it does not especially mention anything. And also you can see that it doesn't say that it is not null, which means null values are allowed, right? Now, once again, let me describe, or we will see the values here. Let us try to insert some values into our new table, that is order. So insert into orders. I'll use the first value I need to put here is order ID. So let me give order ID as 1000, comma, order number. Let me give 2333 as order number, comma. So we have to give person ID as one of these values, that is either 100 or 101. So I will give 100, right? And if I put semicolon and enter, one row is successfully created. Okay. So what happens now? Let us try if I am giving a value which is not there in the table, like we discussed before. So observe this person table. I have the person ID value 100 and 101. Suppose I'm giving 104, which is not present in person ID, which I'm referring from this particular table. So if I give this value, I'm getting a unique constraint violated. I'm getting a violation over here. So it is not allowing me to enter a value which is not available in my referenced table. Okay. So what about null? Let me give null value. Okay, sorry. Here it is saying unique constraint violated is because I was trying to give the same value for order ID. Okay, fine. Then let me just change this once again. 104. Okay. Now it is saying integrity constraint. My bad. So if you see here, it was saying unique constraint violated is for 1000, because 1000 is something which I already entered, and order ID is our primary key. So primary key already had a 1000 value. And when I was trying to enter once again 1000, it was saying that a unique constraint violated. That is because you cannot repeat the value for primary key. Okay, so before even checking for this particular column, it was giving error for me for the first one itself. Now that I have changed the value to 1001, now let us try if I am giving a value which is not available in my reference to table, will it give any error? Yes, it is saying integrity constraint violated. Parent key not found. That is because this is my parent table person, and in the person table, I do not have the value which I'm trying to enter here. That is why it is saying parent key not found. Okay, so let me change this to null. Yes, the row is getting created. So let us now do select star from orders. Yes, these are the values. As you can see, null, whenever we give, it will show as empty value here. So I have now another table, orders, which is referencing to the person table, and it is referring to the person ID. Person ID here is a foreign key. Now let me try and drop the constraint and see if it will work. Okay. So if I want to drop the primary, not primary key, we have studied already how to drop it. We have seen it in the previous session. If I want to drop a foreign key, how can I do that? So the command is alter table orders drop constraint. Now you should be very careful about what name have you given. This is the reason I say I have given a name here, because giving name for a constraint is important, especially for the foreign key if you want to drop it. When it comes to the primary key, you can just say drop primary key and it will work. But here for foreign key, you require to write the name of the constraint. So fk underscore person PERID. Okay. fk underscore PERID. Table altered, which means my constraint has been removed. Now let us try and enter the values. Okay, let me just enter this value and see if it will take. Let us change the ID because we cannot enter the same values. Okay, now it is taking because we have removed the foreign key constraint. So now there is no limitations over the values which I'm going to enter, because there is no foreign key constraint, there is no referential integrity constraint which is required to be taken care of. Any value can be entered in the person ID. We are not at all referring to the person table. Okay. Now, let us try and add the value. Okay. Let us add the foreign key into this table. Now we have removed. If I want to add after creation of the table, if I want to add, let me see what I can do about it. Okay, so I will use alter table orders, add constraint. Let me give the name fk underscore person ID foreign key of, I should know what is the, so this is the column name, so I should write it as it is, person underscore ID references. Same thing as we have written in the create table, but here you're using it for the alter table. References person, and the name there is person ID. Let us see if this will work. Okay, it is saying invalid alter. Okay, because I put an extra bracket. Cannot validate parent key not found. Okay, now this is because I think we have added a value here which was not present in our parent table. So either we can delete this value or we can add a value. Let me just add a value to the parent table. So insert into person values. Okay, so here we need person ID, last name, first name, address, and city. So person ID 104, last name, right, address, city. Make sure that all the strings are within the quotes. Okay, let us see. Okay, now the row is created. Let us try and use the alter table here. Now it is working. Okay, now this parent key not found, as we have seen before. This particular condition comes only when that particular value is not available in the parent. So what I have done is we had two options: either delete this particular row, that is this particular row that we can do, or you can add a value over here. So what I did is I added that particular value into this persons, that is your person table. I added the value with 104. Now the table was able to alter. Okay, so if I do select star now, orders, this is my table referencing table, and this is my referenced table. Okay, so this is about foreign key. So I hope this is clear how to create a foreign key, how they are linked to each other, how adding value or removing value, removing the foreign key, everything is done using the SQL. Okay, I hope these sessions are helping you all in your study, students. Thank you for watching. Keep learning.